Hello, my name is Meg, and today I'm going to be teaching you how to storytell for Blood on the Clocktower. For this video, I'm going to assume you have never played, have never storytold, and haven't really read the manual that much. If you have played the game before or know a little bit about what you're doing, but you're looking for more specific tips, I will put a link in the description for a different video that I made that has more niche or specific advice. Let's get into it. So first of all, what is this game? It's a social deduction game, kind of like Werewolf, Among Us, Mafia, etc, etc. If you don't know what game that is, look it up. Let's start with setup. The game box is actually what the storyteller uses to tell the story. So first you're going to want to empty out the whole thing and clip it together. It looks like this. It's supposed to look like a storybook. This is what you're going to use to keep track of the character tokens. It comes with a stand, so you'll want a table a little bit away from everybody else to put it on because you don't want players to be able to see this during the game. You'll want your players sat in a circle, preferably. We've played it around a table, but it was kind of annoying. As you can see, the inside of the book is made of felt, and so is the back of the tokens. So they stick really easily. In the middle of the circle on the floor or on the table, you're going to want to put up your town square. This board will show who is alive and who is dead. This token represents each player. Put one for every player you have onto the town square. This side represents an alive player, this side represents a dead player. Once a player has died and you flip the token over, you'll want to put one of these tokens on top. This represents their ghost vote. More on ghost votes later. This sheet comes with the game and you can simply read this to explain the rules to your players. If you are playing multiple games with new people and you don't want to keep reading this over and over again, in my other video on storytelling, which is in the description, I show you how I explain the rules there because I don't like reading this every single time. On the back side, it shows you how many character types you will have for how many players you have. Put this under the town square board so that only this part is showing. Make sure to give each player a menu for the evening. Now you are ready to select characters, put them in the purple bag, and pass it around the circle. Tell your players to be careful when they're taking tokens out of the bag because they can stick together. Once your players have selected their character out of the bag, have them hold their token with the felt side facing up, like they're feeding a horse. You will go around the circle, collect them, and put them in your grimoire. For the love of all that is good and holy, make sure you keep track of where you started. That definitely wasn't a mistake I made my very first time storytelling. So either have a gap in your circle where you can go in and out easily and then start from one end and go around, or whatever method works for you. We played around 2 tables, so it's a bit more complicated for us. Hence why I messed up. That is how to set up the game. But how do you actually play the game? It's kind of complicated, especially if you've never led a game of werewolf or assassin or something like that. Blue characters are good, red characters are evil. Good wins when they find and execute the demon. Evil wins when there are 2 players left alive, a demon and somebody else. For this video, I'm going to use Trouble Brewing as my example because that is definitely the script that you should start with. This box is for storing the tokens. You can set up your grimoire however you like. This is how I do mine. Here is my night order sheet. Oops. This is my night order sheet, which helps me know what characters to wake up when. This is my box where I keep all the extra characters that I'm not using. These are the square reminder tokens. These are my shroud tokens to mark when somebody has died. And on this side is where I have my character tokens with all of my reminder tokens. Blood on the Clocktower works in 2 phases, the night phase and the day phase. First, explain the nightly sign language to your players. A double tap on the shoulder or the knee signals to wake up. First, check with your players that they are okay with this. If they're a character who gains information in numbers, 1, 2, 3, 0, etc. Gesturing to the group indicates that they must choose somebody. If they're a character who learns yes or no, yes and no. If they're a character who chooses a character, gesture to their menu. If you need to indicate alignment, this is good, this is evil. This is the signal to go back to sleep. Once you've collected everybody's tokens and you feel ready, begin the night phase. Begin by telling everybody to close their eyes and go to sleep. Note that not every character wakes on the first night. Look for the asterisks next to each night to know if they shouldn't wake up on the first night. This will be listed on the night order, so it won't be confusing. Speaking of the night order, let's go through it. First, send everybody to sleep. Then you'll wake up your minions and you'll show them this token, and then point to the demon. Then put your minions to sleep. Wake up your demon, show them the other side of the token, and point to their minions. After that, if you have a poisoner, you'll wake up the poisoner. If you have a spy, you'll wake up the spy. Then just wake up all these characters in order if you have them in play to give them their information. You can wake up the demons and the minions at the same time if you like. For the script, it works that you can do that. Once you send the minions to sleep, the demon gets 3 bluffs. These are 3 characters that are not in play. They can be townsfolk or outsiders. I suggest giving 2 townsfolk and an outsider for them to bluff as. You'll do this by simply holding up each token individually for the demon to see. If you woke the minions and demons up at the same time, make sure you put the minions to sleep before you give the demon their bluffs. Once you've woken up everybody that needs to be woken up, tell everybody to wake up and announce that you have died. If you didn't already know, then I'm glad I told you, players don't die the first night. Only the storyteller dies the first night. So simply announce to the room that you have died and they need to avenge your death. This game allows and encourages private chats, so hopefully you will have room for your players to get up from their seats, go and have private chats. Once you call everybody back, make sure they understand they need to sit in their same seats because you will have everything set up in your grimoire and you might get confused if people swap seats. So make sure everybody understands they need to sit in their same seat. There isn't an exact number for how much time you should give your players to have private chats, but I would say 5 to 8 minutes. Also depends on your player count. Then after not too much time has passed, call everybody back to town and then they can have a public conversation with everybody in the circle. Then after a minute or 2, open nominations. Nominations work like this. Every player can nominate once per day and every player can only be nominated once per day. I just trust my players to keep track of that. Once your player has nominated somebody by saying, I nominate Rebecca, then say Meg has nominated Rebecca. Meg, tell us why. And then Meg might share whatever information they have or their reasoning for why they are nominating Rebecca. Then say to Rebecca, what is your defense? Once both players have shared their side, everybody can discuss and talk and then take the vote. To take the vote, stand in the middle of the circle, point your arm out and move clockwise, like a clock. This is called Blood on the Clock Tower after all. When your hand passes by someone, their arm must be raised, and then you count that as a vote. If their hand is not raised, don't count it. For a nominated person to be put on the block for execution, they need 50% or more of the vote. Of alive players. So if you have 6 alive players, they need 3 votes to put them on the block. This is where ghost votes will come into play. If somebody is dead and uses their ghost vote, remove the vote token so they know they cannot vote anymore for the rest of the game. Being on the block does not mean that they're immediately executed. There is a chance for more nominations to happen and whoever has the most votes at the end of the day is the person who is executed. If there is a tie for the most votes, nobody is executed. Once you've given people enough time to nominate and vote, then you will close nominations for the day and whoever had the most votes is then executed. Or if there was a tie or if nobody was nominated, then nobody is executed and then you go into the night phase. If the demon is executed and there's no Scarlet Woman ability that can happen, the good team wins. Otherwise, the game continues and you should put everybody back to sleep. Then you flip this over and we have the other knights. So our poisoner goes first, then our monk. If the poisoner poisons the monk can't actually save anybody, but you should still wake up your monk and make them pick somebody because you don't want them to know that they're poisoned. Remember, if a character is drunk or poisoned, you want them to still think that they have their ability or that they are learning information. It's just going to be wrong and their ability won't actually work, but you want them to think that it does. I go more into that in my second video in the description. When a player dies, their role is not revealed, they can still play, they're still in the game, they can still talk as much as they want. Dead players' abilities do not work and they do not learn any more information. Dead players also cannot nominate. They can vote with their final ghost vote, but they cannot nominate. Then just repeat the night and day phase until one team wins. Without further ado, let's go through every single character so you know exactly how to run each one. The Washerwoman. You start knowing that one of 2 players is a particular townsfolk. So that means that in the middle of the night, when you wake up your Washerwoman, you will point between 2 different people, and one of them is this townsfolk. So your Washerwoman can confirm that somebody's a townsfolk and trust them. So for example, let's say you have a monk in play. You will point between a person who is the monk and a person who is not the monk, and then show the Washerwoman the monk token. The Librarian. You start knowing that one of 2 players is a particular outsider, or that 0 are in play. Same concept as the Washerwoman. Let's say you have a butler in play. You'll wake the Librarian up, you'll point between 2 players, one who is the butler and one who's not the butler, and then show the butler token. Or if there's 0 in play, give them a 0. The Investigator. You start knowing that one of 2 players is a particular minion. Same concept as the Washerwoman and the Librarian. Wake your Investigator up, point between 2 people. Let's say you have a poisoner, point between 2 people, one who is the poisoner and one who is not the poisoner, and put them back to sleep. The Chef. You start knowing how many pairs of evil players there are. A pair means that 2 evil players are sitting next to each other. So if your poisoner is sitting next to your imp, you will give your chef a 1. If no evil players are sitting next to each other, 0. If you have 3 evil players and they're all sitting next to each other, you'll give a 2. The Empath. Each night you learn how many of your 2 alive neighbors are evil. So if your Empath is sitting between 2 townsfolk, they'll get a 0. If they're sitting between 2 outsiders, they'll get a 0. If they're sitting between a minion and a townsfolk, they'll get a 1. If they're sitting between a demon and a townsfolk, they'll get a 1. If they're sitting between a minion and a demon, they'll get a 2. Note it says 2 alive neighbors. So if the neighbor of the empath is killed, it will go to the next person and they will get a read on them. So for example, let's say that your empath was sitting between the Washerwoman and the fortune teller, and so the first night they got a 0 because they're sitting next to no evil players. Then the fortune teller was either executed or died, and next to the fortune teller was the poisoner. Now in the night, the empath will get a 1 because it goes through dead players. The fortune teller. Each night choose 2 players. You learn if either is a demon. There is a good player that registers as a demon to you. So when you wake up the fortune teller, you will gesture to the room. They must choose 2 players. If either player is a demon, not evil, the demon, you will nod your head yes. If neither of them is the demon, shake your head no. There is a good player that registers as a demon to you, aka the red herring. The red herring comes as a reminder token with the fortune teller, and you will have pre-selected who the red herring is before you start the game. So this means that if the fortune teller chooses their red herring and a player that isn't the demon, for example, you will still give them a yes. The Undertaker. Each night you learn which character died by execution today. So when you wake up the Undertaker, you will show them the token of the person who was executed the day before. If nobody was executed, just don't wake up the Undertaker. They'll understand. The Monk. Each night, choose a player, not yourself. They are safe from the demon tonight. So the monk wakes up, chooses a player, and then that person cannot die. So you'll notice in the turn order that the monk goes first. The Ravenkeeper. If you die at night, you are woken to choose a player. You learn their character. So only if the Ravenkeeper is killed at night do they wake up to learn their information. So the Ravenkeeper is going to point at somebody, and then you'll show them whatever character that person is. The Virgin. The first time you are nominated, if the nominator is a townsfolk, they are executed immediately. So when you're in the day phase and a player nominates the Virgin, if the player who nominated them is a townsfolk, they die immediately. Not a good player, but a townsfolk, so it won't work for an outsider. Some people get confused with this. The Virgin doesn't die. The person who nominated the Virgin dies, if they're a townsfolk. And note the wording, they are executed. You can only have 1 execution per day, so if somebody nominates the Virgin and they're a townsfolk and are executed, the day immediately ends. The Slayer. Once per game during the day, publicly choose a player. If they are the demon, they die. So randomly at any time during the day, the Slayer can just go, I'm going to use my Slayer shot and I'm going to shoot Rebecca. If Rebecca is the demon, they will die immediately and you will announce that Rebecca has died. If that player is not the demon, you will say that the shot misses and has no effect. The demon dying might not be immediate game over. We'll get there in a moment. The Soldier. You are safe from the demon. Pretty straightforward. If the demon chooses them in the night, they will not die. The Mayor. If only 3 players live and no execution occurs, your team wins. If you die at night, another player might die instead. There's a lot to unpack here. Let's deal with the first thing. If only 3 players live and no execution occurs, your team wins. So as we know, the game ends when there's 2 players left alive, the demon and 1 other. So if you get down to 3 and nobody executes anyone, good automatically wins. If you die at night, another player might die instead. What this means is that if the demon targets the mayor, it might bounce off to a different player and they will die instead. This is 100% up to the storyteller who dies instead. This power can be used to balance your game. If you have a lot of dead players who are good and evil seems like they are really stomping the good team, then you can use the mayor's ability to actually kill an evil player. Or if the good team is winning by a lot, then have it bounce off and kill the good player. That decision is totally up to you. Let's move on to outsiders. Outsiders are also good characters, but their ability is a bit of a hindrance to the good team. The Butler. Each night, choose a player, not yourself. Tomorrow, you may only vote if they are voting too. So wake the Butler up, gesture around to the room and have them pick someone. Now tomorrow, they may only vote if the player they picked is voting as well. If the Butler accidentally votes when the player they chose did not vote, don't announce it to the room, count their vote, but then remind them in secret that they can only vote if their player they chose is voting. The Drunk. You do not know you are the drunk. You think you are a townsfolk character, but you are not. In this script, this is the only token that you will not put in the bag. So you will put an extra townsfolk token into the bag, and then the person who selects it will think that they are the townsfolk, but they're actually the drunk, so their ability is not going to work, and any information they get might be wrong. Might be wrong, so once again, that is totally up to you, but to keep it balanced, you should at least give them mostly incorrect information. For now, all you need to know is don't put the token into the bag. The Recluse. You might register as evil and a minion or demon, even if dead. So this is a character that might mess with the empath, the fortune teller, or the chef. For example, if the Recluse is sitting next to the Imp, you could actually give your chef a 1. Same with the Empath. If your Empath is sitting in between the Poisoner and the Recluse, they might actually get a 2. They might get a 1, it's up to you, but they might get a 2. And then for the Fortune Teller, if they select a Townsfolk and the Recluse, they will maybe get a yes. The Saint. If you die by execution, your team loses. The tricky part here is just whether people trust your Saint. So if the Saint is executed at any time, the game ends and the evil team instantly wins. The Poisoner. Each night choose a player. They are poisoned tonight and tomorrow day. The Poisoner is where things can really go wrong. So you wake them up, you gesture around to the room and they choose someone. That person is then poisoned for the night and then also for the next day. When a player is poisoned, their ability won't work and they will get incorrect information. If the Washerwoman is poisoned, you could point between 2 players and actually show them a token that is not in play at all. If they poison the chef and you do have 2 evil players sitting next to each other, you can give them a 0. If the Empath is poisoned and they are sitting next to an evil player, you could also give them a 0. Or if the Empath is sitting between 2 good players, you might give them a 1. If the Fortune Teller is poisoned, you might nod yes when they didn't select a demon. Or you should say no if they do select a demon. If the Undertaker is poisoned and somebody was executed, show them the wrong token. If the Monk is poisoned, they can't actually save anybody. So if the Monk and the demon target the same person, that person will die. If the Ravenkeeper is poisoned and they die in the night, still wake them up to show them a character, but you'll show them the wrong one. If the Virgin is poisoned and a townsfolk nominates them, they won't die. If the Slayer is poisoned and they take their shot and they actually get the demon, then the demon won't die. If the Soldier's poisoned, they can die. If the Mayor is poisoned, the demon selects them, then it won't bounce off, it will just kill them. And if the Mayor is poisoned when there are 3 players left and nobody is executed, the power won't work and evil will win. If the Butler is poisoned, then they don't have to vote only when their master votes. However, the Butler's not going to know that they're poisoned. If the Drunk is poisoned, they're still drunk. The 2 do not cancel each other out. If the Recluse is poisoned, they won't show up as potentially evil or a minion or a demon. If the Saint is poisoned and people execute them that day, then the game won't end. Basically, if you are poisoned, your ability completely goes away. It's like there's nothing there. And if you learn information, it will be wrong. The Spy. Each night you see the Grimoire. You might register as good and as a townsfolk or outsider, even if dead. So when you wake up the Spy, turn the Grimoire around and show them the whole thing. I usually give about 10 slow seconds. You might register as good and as a townsfolk or outsider, even if dead. So this is basically the opposite of the Recluse. So if your Spy is sitting next to your Imp, your chef might get a 0. If the Empath is sitting next to the Spy and a townsfolk, they might get a 0. If the Spy was executed and you wake up the Undertaker, you could show them any townsfolk or outsider character instead of the Spy token. The Baron. There are extra outsiders in play, plus 2 outsiders. So according to our character count, let's say we have 10 players. So there's 0 outsiders, but if we put a Baron as one of our minions, then we will have 2 outsiders and we will minus those 2 from the 7 townsfolk. So we'll only have 5 townsfolk, 2 outsiders, 2 minions, one of them being the Baron, and then 1 imp. The Scarlet Woman. If there are 5 or more players alive and the demon dies, you become the demon. Travelers don't count. A traveler is a completely separate character type that I'm not going to talk about right now, so you don't need to worry about that part. So if your demon is executed and there's enough players still alive, your Scarlet Woman will become the demon and you will tell them this in the night. Obviously your Scarlet Woman probably knows that their demon was executed, but just to make sure, show them this. And then from there, ask them who they want to kill. There are multiple imp tokens in the box, so you can replace the Scarlet Woman token with a new imp one if you want to. 5 or more players alive and the demon dies. That means that if you have 5 players and then the demon is executed, so there's technically 4, the Scarlet Woman will become the imp. So it's not 5 players once the demon is executed, it's 5 players, the demon is executed, now there's technically 4, the Scarlet Woman then becomes the imp. So if there's 4 players and there's an imp and a Scarlet Woman and the imp is executed, then the Scarlet Woman will not become the imp, the game will end, and good will have won. The Imp. Each night, choose a player. They die. If you kill yourself this way, a minion becomes the imp. So wake up your imp, gesture around to the room, they get to kill someone. The imp also acts early in the night. So if they kill someone, let's say the fortune teller, then the fortune teller won't wake up. If they kill themselves, a minion becomes the imp. Which minion? If there is an alive Scarlet Woman in play, they should have the first priority to become the demon. After that, it's entirely up to you. So that is every single character and how they work. If you ever get lost or confused, just refer back to the actual wording on the token. Words like might, words like die versus execution are all very important. So that is how to storytell Blood on the Clocktower. If you have any more questions, they might be answered in my other video, which I'm linking in the description box below. In that video, I also go through the actual gameplay and show you all the decisions that I made in the night. I hope this was helpful and that you have some good games.